Shalom, family. We're going to talk about the words Jew, Hebrew, Israelite, and Israel. What are the difference of those terms and what do they mean? Okay, so we know with Jew, it means belonging to Judah, a person belonging to the tribe of Judah. Okay, and we know that the first one to use the name Jews, Jews, was the writer of the book of Kings, and that was Jeremiah. And we notice there in Jeremiah chapter 2 Kings chapter 16 verse 6, he mentions there at the time reason the king of Syria recovered Elath to Syria and drove the Jews from Elath, and the Syrians came to Elath down to this day. So this was the first occurrence of the word Jews in the Hebrew Scriptures, and that was from Jeremiah. And then we know that later, after the exile, after the Babylonian exile, the name Jews was used and was applied to any Israelites who were returning back to Jerusalem. And then after that, finally, to all Hebrews, it applied to all Hebrews throughout the world to distinguish them from the Gentile nations. Okay. And so people have wondered, well, what about Jesus, Yeshua? Was he a Jew? Well, again, the word Jew means belonging to Judah, a person belonging to the tribe of Judah. So, yes, Jesus or Yeshua, he was a Jew. And we know that, thank goodness that Matthew and Luke were able to copy the genealogical line of Joseph and Mary from the city recorder in Jerusalem. They were able to copy that down. In Matthew chapter 1, we have the genealogical line down of Joseph. And then in Luke chapter 3, we have the genealogical line of Mary. She was her father was Heli, and then it goes all the way down to David and his son Nathan. Whereas Matthew, it goes down to David and his son Solomon. So thank goodness Matthew and Luke were able to record the genealogical line of Yeshua. And no one in Yeshua's day refuted that genealogical line. It was there in the city recording books, in the scrolls, and no one refuted it in Yeshua's day. So we can rely on that was accurate. Okay then. So then what about the word Hebrew? Well, without getting into the root word Avar, which means from the other side of the river, or the name Eber, which was the great grandson of Shem and the ancestor of Abraham. But we know that the designation Hebrew is first used for Abram, which later was Abraham. And we know that the Egyptians, they even knew about the word Hebrew. We go to Genesis chapter 14 and verse 12 and 13 here. It talks about they took Abraham's son Lot, they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dealt in Sodom and his goods and departed. Verse 13, and they came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew. See, so they knew that, for he dealt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Anar, and these were confederate with Abram. So it mentions there Abram the Hebrew. And then, as I said, the Egyptians, they knew of the word Hebrew. They knew that referred to Abrams or Abraham and his family and his descendants. There we know that Potiphar's wife, when she was trying to lay down with Joseph, she mentioned that she cried out when he ran out and left his garment in her hand, she called out to the men of her house and spoke unto them, saying, See, he hath brought in a Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. Of course, we know that was a lie. But so that's one occurrence in the Hebrew scriptures that show that the Egyptians, they knew of that word Hebrew. And then if we go over to Exodus chapter 1 and verses 15 and 16, it talks about how the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of one was Shiphrah and the name of the other Puah. In verse 16, and he said, When ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, so he knew that that word Hebrew referred to Abraham's descendants, and see them upon the stools. If it be a son, then ye shall kill him, but if it be a daughter, then ye shall live. Okay, so we know that that was the word Hebrew was known throughout the Egyptian kingdom there. And then too, we have another example in Jeremiah, where it mentions about the word Hebrew. I see here, this would be Jeremiah chapter 34, verse 8, 9, and 14, where the word Hebrew and the word Jew are used interchangeably. It talks about how that every man should let his manservant and every man his maidservant, being an Hebrew or a Hebrewess, go free, and that none should serve himself of them, to wit, of a Jew his brother. Okay, and verse 14 said the same thing. At the end of 7 years, let ye go, every man his brother a Hebrew. And so we know the midwives there. Of course, they did not do that. They did not comply with Pharaoh's orders there to kill the Hebrew children, the male children. So we can be happy with that. So Hebrews, Jews, Israelites. Okay, let's go to the term Israelite. That is referring to, we have 5 designations of that. It can refer to the members of all of the 12 tribes before they split. It can refer to the 10-tribe northern kingdom. It can refer to the non-Levitical Jews returning from Babylonian exile. It can refer to the Jews of the first century CE. We know that the Apostle Paul mentioned about the Israelites, or the Israel of God. And then the 5th way we think of the word Israel, it can also mean spiritual Israel, as opposed to fleshly Israel or by blood related. So that's interesting there, that we have different designations. And so with that in mind, let's just put this out right here. Many people have wondered about this. The true 12 tribes of Israel today, are they all black? Are they all dark skinned? Well, let's just put this out right now, that the true 12 tribes of Israel today are not all blood related or direct fleshly descendants. And we also want to put out also today that the true 12 tribes of Israel today are not the only ones who will be saved. They are not the only ones that are going to gain salvation. And we're going to have another video about that later on, where we will address that. Not all of the true 12 tribes of Israel today are not the only ones that are going to gain salvation. And the reason why we can say that, brothers and sisters, is because, first off, in book of John, chapter 10, verse 16, it talks about, well, actually in verse 11, Yeshua says that I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for his sheep. And then in verse 16, he says, I have other sheep I have, which are not of this fold. Them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold, one shepherd. And then we have in Revelation chapter 7, verse 9, behold, a great multitude.